there's a lot of good work that happens. The diversity in thought and the value, and I know some of my close working relationships on a day-to-day basis, and through the history of my career, it's really come from the women that I've worked with. Men are just a pain in the ass. Joking. Diversity in all its forms is important, but yeah, really want to say thank you to all of the women working for our directorate who's played a very big role in how we deliver services to the department. So thank you. I have invited Pramila here to speak. I'm not going to remember half the titles that you hold, but Pramila is helping us with our leadership workshop, which is going really well. But she's a really strong advocate for women working in technology. So I've sort of invited her to say a few words for 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. I wasn't expecting such a big crowd. I think when I said yes to Sean. So this morning when I looked at my phone and I was like 131 people, I was like, oh, okay. I better brace myself for that moment. But thank you so much for coming here today. Do you mind coming a little closer just so that we can feel more involved? Fantastic. Thank you. So, yeah, not social distancing. I've been working in technology for 25 years across UK, Europe, Swedish countries, America, and now Australia. I want to maybe share a slightly different journey with all of you. Come journey with me. My story started in London. God, 21-year-old, just finished university. I was super excited, super pumped. I walked into my first job in the investment banking sector in technology. And I was fresh, I was excited, absolute go-getter, really ambitious, really loud, really confident. But the first day into a meeting, I walked in. And I don't think I was prepared for this. People started speaking over me. And I was like, oh, that was not planned. People would interrupt me. And I was like, oh, okay, didn't plan this. And then people would say, oh, Pramila, can you quickly wrap around? While the rest of them continued to have conversations. And I was sitting there trying to make sense of this. I was like, what's happening? They didn't teach me all this in university. I'm navigating areas that, I've not been taught to navigate. And I'm very young. But then, chip by chip, all of those small micro steps started chipping away on my confidence. I started getting quieter and quieter in meeting rooms. But you know what increased? Self-doubt. It just kept increasing. And the way this showed up for me was I would over-prepare for meetings. Like I would absolutely prepare what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say, how I'm going to stand. I would actually speak faster because I was really afraid that somebody would cut me short and I really needed to get my message through. So I would speak really fast. It was funny. As a woman, I would like clean up after the meeting, just so that I'm accepted and liked, as women. And I kept smiling more and more, and I kept nodding my head more and more in meetings, And I would end up picking up more work than I could even do. But that's because I was desperate. I was desperate to prove my worth. I was desperate to belong. But I was most desperate to prove that I too can succeed in these spaces. So, I just want to ask a question to all the women. Man, you can hold your hands down. But just to all the women. How many of you have been spoken over in meetings? Oh, good. I think I'm in the right place over here. How many of you have been interrupted while you were speaking in meetings? How many of you have been asked to kind of quickly wrap up your point while others continue talking? Yeah? And how many of you clean up after meetings after everybody else has left? Yeah? That's all of us. And this is what I realized is I was qualified, but these workplaces hadn't been designed for me. These workplaces haven't been designed for women. And if you kind of look at it, just off the thing, I look at playgrounds. I've got very young kids, so I'm in school most of the time. And I look at playgrounds and I look at those boys. And when they're playing, they're like elbowing each other to get up. In fact, our Australian sport is AFL. You kind of say something, right? Is boys are taught to elbow each other to get ahead. But then as women, we're conditioned to be nice, to wait our turn, to be the good girl. In fact, there's a book that was written that I used to work on, which is Good Girls Don't Get the Corner Office by Louise Frankel. And the challenge we as women face is we are conditioned for our entire life to be good girls. But good is just not good enough anymore. Good doesn't balance the scales. Good doesn't get us promotions. Good doesn't get us those opportunities. So today I just want to share 4 tips with you of how I've gone from being silenced to be seen, heard, valued, and respected. So we'll start with the first one, to be seen. Visibility is leadership. We kind of taught this myth of if you work hard, the work will speak for itself. Let me give you a reality, that's just not true anymore. I know we were taught, but it just doesn't work. You have to speak. It's not deliberate as well. Everybody's just really busy. We operate in complex environments, and God, there's so much chaos. You know the chaos we have right now. So it's not deliberate, but people are just busy. So we need to actually be our own microphone. We need to speak about the impact we are having and the outcomes we're delivering. We need to start with that self-advocacy for ourselves first. The second point is to be heard. So owning your own voice. As I said earlier, sometimes I would speak and the words would float away. But then somebody else would speak and all of a sudden it's a really good idea. And I was like, damn, how do I change that? And instead of me getting angry, I actually got a little curious, and it's good to have a technology background, very analytical. So when somebody repeated my idea, I would actually dissect it. What is it that they've done? And I noticed that they were speaking in terms of facts and evidence and vision and purpose and risks and impact and trade-offs. And I'd realized that's actually leadership language, which is good because the good thing about leadership is you don't have to be born a leader. You can learn and practice those skills. So definitely this is something we as women can do. The third point was valued. Now as women, I feel like we carry a lot of the office housework. By the way, I want to give a shout out to the man today who brought in all this food. I heard that the man had to cook and bake.
So I'm just looking at 6 boxes.
Yeah! Which meant going down to the Border Bakery. They do the best pies by the way. So there was some effort and there was some creativity. Let's give credit to that. But then us as women, we really pick up that office housework. We pick up that emotional labor, running those DI committees, the mental health issue committees, building that culture. And we're given very little recognition. But you know what? All this is actually leadership work because this is emotional intelligence, social intelligence, people and culture. So the next time you women have your one-to-one or your performance reviews, I want you to speak about the leadership capabilities you're building, right? Because we need to value ourselves first before somebody else can value us. Last but not least is respected. So boundaries and brave conversations. I feel there's this notion, even that I had, is, I'll be respected when I'm given that next promotion, when I'm given that title. But I find that respect is something that needs to be upheld every day. And the powerful tool I use is instead of calling out, I call in. because we want to effect behavioral change. We don't want to create shame. So what does this look like? Is we may be in a meeting and then I'll call in on someone and I'll be like, when you made that comment, this is how it landed for me. So I still have that opportunity to explain how I experienced it without causing shame. Does that make sense? Yeah? So as women in technology, and I see such a good representation over here. I'll kind of ask for the statistics later on, but we see a really good representation over here. We're breaking so much new ground. And a lot of work has been done in the past 30 to 40 years. But then the fact is that we're still celebrating International Women's Day today. That still tells me that there's more work to be done. But I also want to recognize Sean and Stuart and the incredible leadership team we have over here, because they recognize the challenges we are facing and they're willing to do something about it. So I do want to give a shout out to them as well. Yeah.